It's 6 months
I'm actually
now.
not a former Legislative member. I'm a current Legislative member.
Are you? Of course, you are still a current.
I'm a
yes.
former district council member.
That's absolutely
And
correct.
I'm also the convener of the Roundtable Group,
Yes.
which is a
Okay,
moderate faction of the so-called pro-Beijing camp.
That makes your answers that much more important. So this is it. Where are we in this standoff between the government, the authorities, and what looks like not the silent, but a very loud majority in Hong
Quick
Kong?
summary. Everything started by Carrie Lam regarding the extradition bill. Okay? Then it led to clashes between police and rioters. Then the withdrawal of the bill is not enough to quell public unrest. As more and more confrontation occurs, there are more and more allegations about police brutality and also about the background of the radicals. Is it foreign government? Is it Taiwan government? And then more and more mistrust is building up within the society between husband and wives, families, schools, chat groups, and our community at large. So now, with the withdrawal of the bill, which is no longer even relevant, the key issue now is the setting up of a statutory board called the Commission for Inquiry.
Independent one.
Independent one.
But she's not succeeded on that request.
Which is an ordinance with full powers to summon and subpoena. Okay? Carrie Lam steadfastly refused all the way and said the IPCC, the Independent Police Complaint Council, can do the job, which in a sense she can keep saying that until a couple of weeks ago when the overseas expert employed by the IPCC before they left Hong Kong made a joint statement that it's not a statutory body, it doesn't have the power it needs to dig to the truth. So then all hell broke loose. So there are more people being unsatisfied, and this thing is going on. And that is actually one of the cause for, of course, the landslide loss for the pro-establishment camp in the recent DC election. Now, they're coming back onto the street with a peaceful march saying, we're going to hold back on violence, because yesterday there was not a lot of violence, so they honor their side of it. There's a peaceful march with supposedly 800,000 people saying we still want our demand. We now control the district council, okay? We still want our demand being heard. And I think the public is still supporting this particular cause, not necessarily what the radicals are doing, okay? But somehow there's a strange situation where while they do not support the radicals' behavior, they somehow felt that the radicals are what's needed to put pressure on government. Okay. So now it's up to Carrie Lam to respond.
So, Michael, we thought there'd be a response after those district elections. There was none, really. How much wiggle room does she have? And how much is she looking at Beijing rather than looking at her own constituency, which is Hong Kong? That's the thing. And how much room for maneuver does she have? That's key.
She is definitely in a bind, all right? How unfortunately, as the chief executive, everything falls on her shoulder. It is quite apparent that the police is against this setting up of this commission, all right? And it is not surprising that any party which will be investigated if the COI is set up will have a different view, okay? It's only understandable. So it's really up to Carrie Lam as our chief executive, as long as she is still in that office, to try everything to either convince the police or the central government, lest this thing is going to continue for God knows how long. Okay, and it's going to possibly affect next year's electoral election, which is a serious matter because it then takes to the root of the governance and the so-called authority of a government-led structure in Hong Kong.
Michael, it's Tom here in Beijing. Do you still think Carrie Lam will be replaced in 2020?
It's hard to say at this point. I think most people would agree that she will not go on to her second term. But if we look at what happened to Tung Chee-hwa back in 03-05, he stepped down in 05, 2 years after the fateful march. All right? So far it's been only 6 months. 2 years from now is about the time, 2022, where we'll go to the second term. So it's hard to say at this time whether she'll step down before 2022 or basically exit at 2022. My understanding is that they're looking for backup successor regardless. But of course, President Xi Jinping has come out and given his total support behind Carrie Lam. Now, if that's the case, then Carrie Lam needs to really show her courage and somehow convince whoever parties there are blocking the Commission for Inquiry, because this is also important. Now, in the meantime, she is throwing out the idea of an independent review committee, okay, which obviously has no investigative power, no authority to summons or do anything like that. But I am proposing that the review committee can put forth a review on the IPCC and the possibility of reforming the IPCC. So in the long run, IPCC will become a statutory body just like ICAC. If ICAC has the public support and respect for looking at corruption from all sources, including police, why cannot IPCC also be reformed and set up like another statutory corporation? I think body. I think in the long term, for the sake of Hong Kong, and then to close the gap between police and its citizen, a reform of IPCC in the long run is, without question, the most important thing. And that's what I've been pushing now. But of course, at the same time, to solve the current impasse, okay, we really need to have a COI. And the COI not only looks after police, but also looks after the radicals, and also looks after the white shirt and the blue shirt, and the citizens who supposedly have some kind of organization behind them going after the normal citizens and the black shirt protesters. All right? So all the fake news needs to be settled by the COI to make sure families, husband and wives, parents and kids somehow come to terms with each other. And the IPCC investigation is not going to look into that. Okay? So that's going to be a long-term problem for Hong Kong if there's no COI.
Yeah, a long-term problem for Hong Kong, one of many maybe. In terms of the US support that we've seen for the
this
Hong
is
Kong
key.
protesters,
This is very key.
How important has that been to galvanizing the protest movement?
You mean the human rights bill?
Yes.
Well, I've openly stated that whatever Hong Kong has received as an advantage or special treatment by the U.S. is something that they can unilaterally take it back any time. They can refuse entry even if they grant a 10-year multiple visa. So basically, it's more of a political gesture rather than any substantive move. All right? But what is the implication about the Pan-Democrats in Hong Kong going to the U.S. seeking for help and getting it? Actually, I think it's a very, very bad move because it's going to drive Beijing and, especially the more conservative faction of the Beijing camp, okay, to really stand firm and not to resent to any kind of request by the protesters. Because you are talking about Hong Kong people going to a foreign government asking for help to punish Hong Kong as a way to exert pressure on Beijing, our sovereign entity, right? And now Beijing and US is at war on the trade issue. So that complicates the matter tremendously.
Michael? Okay, these are all the politics and the various moving parts.
Yeah, politics and economy, I'm sorry. All right, when
but I wanted to
cannot be separated.
But no, I agree. But exactly, that's what I'm going to ask you the next question, Michael, which is, how is your business doing in all this? Quite quickly.
Well, My business is peanuts. It's a retail business in Hong Kong.
But it still is reflective of a wider Hong Kong
all right?
economy.
My sales are going to pieces. I have to downsize. I will take a big hit this year. Hopefully I can survive. And then I'm going to cut my inventory and orders for the future. I'm going to cut down on my footprint in Hong Kong.
So we're talking about percentage-wise very quickly, Michael.
Yeah, we dropped about 30% year on year. At retail, it's unheard of. In most retail businesses, they're talking about single-digit comp store growth or drop. All right? Since July, my group, which we have 40 stores in Hong Kong, has experienced about 20-30% comp store drop. So we're going to be bleeding like mad this year, but then we somehow have to adjust and come back next year.